We are here with Dr. Umar Johnson, and he is going to talk about some of the things that he is working on, and that is know your rights in terms of children who are diagnosed with the disruptive behaviors. Dr. Umar, I got you back in the hot seat. How are you?
Peace and Black Power, Sister Ann. I'm glad to be back on the Power Hour. Thank you so much for having me back in studio with you, Queen. And we want to say peace and love to all of our listeners around the world, around the country, but especially right here in the DMV, Maryland, Virginia, D.C. You are listening to Sister Ann and the Prince of Pan-Africanism, Dr. Umar Johnson, and it's going down tomorrow at the John Wesley AME Zion Church in Washington, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. National Black Parent. First time ever, Know Your School Rights Training Tour. If you want to know how to fight back against special ed, fight back against autism, fight back against the learning disability, fight back against full-time special ed, if you want to know the definitions, the federal rights, how to read a psych report, how to understand an IEP, you need to be at John Wesley Church tomorrow. Get your tickets, DrUmarJohnson.com, one time and one time only.
Well, this is going to be a real easy show for me because I'm very comfortable with you doing a lecture.
Cut it out.
I'm out. He's got the board. If anybody gets hung up on, it is not me. He's looking at it. I'm sitting over here. I'm going to put my Facebook page on live. So if you have questions, I can ask them. Call me right now. Last week, you guys had a lot of problem hearing what the callers were saying. If you have any problems like that, right now, I'm going to let the engineer know so we can get her right on board so we can fix all the issues. So, Dr. Umar, give us a taste of what you'll be talking about.
So everyone tomorrow, Sister Ann, is going to get a packet. I call it the training packet, the Black Child Liberation Packet. And in that packet is approximately 15 to 20 different documents that we're going to go through tomorrow morning, beginning at 9 a.m. And we will literally go almost to 9 p.m. Last week, we were in New Orleans, and we literally went to 8:30 p.m., and I still didn't get through all of the information. So we're going to talk about FERPA, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. What is FERPA? What rights do parents have with regard to student records, to getting copies of their child's records, and to getting unfavorable information removed from that record? We're going to talk about vaccinations. What are the 18 states where you do not have to vaccinate your child for public or charter school education? We're going to talk about the 504 plan. A lot of our parents got kids who are diagnosed with ADHD. And even though I do not agree with ADHD, it does not exist in my professional opinion. It is nothing but a Wall Street drug company hoax. But if your child has the diagnosis, why not get him a 504 plan instead of an IEP? And although you need a disabling condition to qualify for a 504 plan or an IEP, what are the differences? And how can a parent make an informed decision as to whether or not they should get their child an IEP or a 504 plan? We're going to talk about all of the 13 federal special ed labels, Sister Ann, which are autism, learning disability, emotional disturbance, intellectual impairment, speech and language impairment, deaf children, hearing impaired, deaf and blind, orthopedically impaired, traumatic brain injured, multiple disabilities, and the list goes on. And we're going to talk about FAPE. What is FAPE? Every special ed child in America has a right, Sister Ann, to a free and appropriate public education. What does that mean? And then we're going to talk about least restrictive environment, LRE, least restrictive environment. If you are in special ed, you should only be in special ed to the extent necessary in order for you to learn, because special education is legal segregation. Special education is legal segregation. So the feds say you should only be there if it is necessary. So we're going to go through all of that. If you have a child, if you care about children, if you work with children, if you're a community organizer, you don't have to have a child. Let's deal with that first of all. All of our children belong to all of us. If you're a college student majoring in psychology, you're a college student majoring in education, you got a community-based organization that work with children. If you don't go to one of Dr. Umar's 15 different trainings in this country this year, then you are not serious. You are a hypocrite. You are a hypocrite because I'm the only school psychologist in this country that is teaching this, and I'm the only one who has ever did this. This tour has never been done, Sister Ann. Never before has a school psychologist went around the country to teach parents the law. Not a lecture, but a paperwork training.
What have you found is the most repetitive question that you hear from parents?
The most repetitive? Wow, that's a great question. Ooh, I never had that before. What is the most repetitive question I get from parents? One of them is, my son has ADHD. You know what? I'm going to change the question just a little bit.
Okay.
Instead of what are the most repetitive questions, what are the biggest mistakes?
Okay.
Let me put it that way, because that's pulling on my memory a little better. Okay. In other words, where am I constantly pulling parents' arms, grabbing them and shouting a little bit? Where are parents constantly making mistakes? 3 areas, Sister Ann. Number 1, assuming that because they have a disability, they need special education.
Okay.
Let's be clear. You do not go to special ed because you have a disability. You could be autistic. You could have a hearing impairment. You could be emotionally disturbed. You could be ADHD. You do not automatically qualify for special ed because you have a disability. You qualify because that disability adversely affects your educational performance. And that is a clause from the law, AAEP. AAEP. There can be no IEP unless there is an AAEP. So, does the autism adversely affect the child's educational performance in the classroom? If you tell me your autistic son got straight A's and B's, he's doing fine in a regular class, why are we discussing special education? You have a hearing impaired child. She has a hearing aid or a hearing device. With that device, Sister Ann, she can learn well in a regular class. Why are we discussing special education? You have an ADHD son. Ain't no daddy at home disorder, ADHD. Or artificial diet at home disorder, ADHD. Or attachment disruption due to home life dysfunction, ADHD. Does your ADHD child or conduct disorder child automatically go to special ed? Only if the so-called ADHD is adversely affecting educational performance. And by adverse effects, Sister Ann, I'm looking straight at the grades. You follow me? Because if he's A's and B's or solid BC, there is no evidence, as far as I'm concerned, of an adverse effect.
Do you think that black children and white children learn differently?
I believe that black children are forced to learn differently because they are treated differently. You see that? So in other words, by virtue of the demand characteristics in the classroom, number 1 of which is racism, it forces the black child to learn differently because the teacher is going to teach them differently. What do we know from the research coming from America's white universities? And although I don't need white universities to tell me what's true or false, you know, our black people love white folks. So you got to invoke white research from time to time. The research from America's white university shows that teachers pay attention to the children in the class who look the most like their own children at home.
Somebody you can relate to.
Right. So let me ask you a question now. And by the way, I live in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has the greatest teacher diversity, the worst teacher diversity differential in America. Only 5%, Sister Ann, of teachers in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania are something other than white. Did you hear what I just said? 95% of Pennsylvania's teachers are Caucasian. So let's take Philadelphia, which has some of the worst academic outcomes in the country, but they running neck and neck with D.C. because Washington, D.C. is ranked 46. Washington, D.C. has the 46th worst school district in America. Now, I was in New Orleans last Saturday. Guess what? They're 50 out of 51 because D.C. is a district, not a state. Louisiana is 50. The only state that scored lower than Louisiana was New Mexico. Look at that. Look at that. So when we talk about parents needing to come to this training, I don't think they quite get it. If you in Baltimore and you not there, you better have a good excuse. If you in Richmond or Hampton or Norfolk and you not there, you better have a good excuse. If you in Anne Arundel County and all these little suburbs, Prince George's, and you don't know what to do to save your child, if you're not there tomorrow, no excuses, because I'll be able to say, Sister Ann, I came, but you chose not to take advantage of it. So number one, putting kids in special ed who don't have disabilities. Number two, not keeping track of your own suspension days yourself. Keeping track of your child's suspension days yourself. And what I mean by that, Sister Ann, is principals are slick. I'm a certified school principal. We're slick.
Now, why do you say that? Because I'm thinking now he's putting the principals out there.
I'm putting the principals out there.
You were a principal.
I were a principal.
That's right. Okay.
And we'll be again once we get the school up. Principals know that special ed kids can only be suspended 10 total days out the whole school year, Sister Ann. Regular ed kids can be suspended 10 days at a time. I want you to get the difference because people confuse it. You're in regular ed, I'm in special ed, right? They can suspend you 10 days every time you get suspended. So you could get suspended 10 days in September, 10 days in October, 10 days in November, right? You can end the school year with 50 days of suspension. It's not against the law because they didn't go past 10 days per incident. But guess what? I got ain't no daddy at home disorder. You can only suspend me 10 total days. You know what that means? If I was suspended 2 days in September, you down to 8. If I was suspended another day in November, you down to 7. 2 more days in December, you down to 5. So guess what happens? Next time I get in trouble, a big fight, you want to suspend me for 7, you can't. Because I only got 10. Now, let me clarify. When I say you can only suspend a special ed kid 10 days, it doesn't mean you can't suspend them beyond 10, but you must go through a process that the federal government mandates, and it's called manifestation determination. And in the training packet tomorrow, we're going to go through the manifestation determination process. And they keep their packets, by the way. This stay with them for the rest of their life. They're just not allowed to give it out. All manifestation says, Sister Ann, you cannot punish kids on behavior related to their disability. We're going to give you 10 days, right? But after those 10, you cannot suspend children for behaviors related to their disability. So guess what? If I'm diagnosed with conduct disorder, that means I beat kids up. I got conduct disorder. You've already maxed my 10 out. It's April 1st. I'm maxed. So we got to go through the whole spring and summer, and you ain't got no more days to get me.
Yeah.
So if you want to remove me again, you got to call my mama in, and the IEP team got to have a meeting with my mama, and we got to decide whether or not Dr. Umar fighting was a manifestation. See that? Manifestation of his disability. Of course it is. I'm conduct disorder. You know what that means? They cannot move me. Most black parents don't understand the behavioral limitations of suspension when it comes to black children. That's why they need the training. And number 3, getting children beneath the 4th grade evaluated for learning disabilities. That might be number 1. Getting children under the 4th grade evaluated for learning disabilities. And the reason for that, Sister Ann, is you can't prove a learning disability. I'm a master certified school psychologist. You can't prove a learning disability. It is only our conclusion. It is only the school psychologist's opinion. It is only a working hypothesis. There's no blood test. There's no urine sample. There's no MRI. There's no X-ray. There's no CAT scan that can prove a learning disability. Stop getting 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9-year-olds tested for learning disabilities when you know they nothing but lazy disabilities.
Wow. You know, it's interesting because I find that some of the children today, they seem to be really quite genius. I have a little, I have a sister with a grandchild that is just amazingly brilliant. And I worry about them because I know that most of these boys that are going to go into these schools are going to be taught by predominantly white female teachers. Are you saying that they can't learn from them or they're not relating to them? Just unpack that a little bit.
Let's look at the conditions. And your board's starting to light up.
But wait a minute, see, it's going to be little people, that's him.
You want me to take one or hold them off for right now?
Let's finish your thought.
Let's finish the conversation. Yes,
yeah.
It's only 2. It's only 2 for right now. Okay. The conditions for learning. I got to trust my teacher. I have to feel like my teacher genuinely cares about me. I have to feel like my teacher loves me. I have to trust my teacher. I have to feel like they care about me. The lessons must be interesting. They must catch my attention. And this is where the teachers are very, very poor at, Sister Ann, because you know what they do? They take last year's lesson plans and try to use them to teach this year's children. Here's what I always tell teachers when I do my teacher in services, right? Children will put as much effort into the lesson as you put into the lesson planning. Let me say it again. And I hope my teachers is listening. I hope the white ones is listening, the black ones, the Arabs, China. If you teaching black children, I want you to hear this. A child will only put as much effort into the lesson as the teacher puts into the lesson planning. When I was a principal, what was my most difficult job? My most difficult job, Sister Ann, was getting teachers to take lesson planning seriously. They don't. And guess what else? And I know this for a fact because most of my friends are principals. Principals rarely, if ever, review lesson plans.
I think they're just happy to get through them.
They just happy to get through them.
Yeah.
But you know what you're dealing with? You're dealing with quality. This is a what do they call it when you buy something from the store and it's supposed to make sure that that's a qualitative quality control.
So there's
there's no quality control because and in defense of principals, let me defend the crew. They are overworked. Like I've seen principals in the school with no VP, no vice principal with 600 kids. They got to do academics and behavior. Come on now. You see what I'm saying? Even in a high school with 1,000 kids, you might got 3 VPs, but one of them is a VP for discipline. One is a VP for special ed. One of them is a VP for special projects. None of them is a VP for lesson planning.
And they don't have enough black males.
They don't have enough. And when they do get black males, guess how they like to use us? No matter how brilliant. You can have a PhD from Harvard. The black males are, what do you want to call it? Typecast. Like Hollywood will typecast you. They only use black males for crime and goofiness. And you follow me? So, they typecast black male principal, Sister Ann, as only being disciplinarians. They want to make every black man a Joe Clark. They want to make every we're going to put you in the worst school, not so you can raise up the test scores, but so you can keep those jungle monkeys in order. And I'm not calling out babies' names, but this is how they talk. Because if you were ever inside of one of these principal conferences or teacher trainings and you listen to the way they talk about our children, it'll blow your mind.
So they really are not caring. Is there anything special? I got a question on
Sure.
my Facebook thing. They're actually in Delaware. Is anything special about the teachers in Delaware?
I wouldn't say
lesson plan that they have
I wouldn't
to follow?
say I'm not sure of Delaware's instructional model, but in terms of the teachers, and I know teachers in Delaware, I help parents in Delaware, there's nothing radically different.
Okay.
There's nothing radically different. You know, here's the thing, Sister Ann. Until we open our own schools, we have to master how to protect our children in these schools. It's the art of war. Tomorrow's training is the art of war for the miseducation machine. That's all it is. The ways and means of succeeding despite the opposition.
Anybody that wants to call in, the number is 410-481-1010. And you made an interesting point at one point. And it was something to the effect of, in terms of keeping our children down, not that it's a little radical, but the white women may not have a vested interest.
They don't.
Okay. Unpack that somewhat.
Let me unpack that. Let me get this one time. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
There we go. I would never say that every white woman has it out for black kids. I know some good white teachers. I've had some good white teachers. You understand me?
Yeah. And we probably had the same one because we went to Millersville.
Exactly. Right? I've had some good white teachers. But here's the issue. It all relates to your definition of education. In order to answer the question, can white teachers teach black children? I first have to ask you, what is your definition of education? If your definition of education is reading, writing, and arithmetic, yes, they can. If your definition of education is reading, literacy, if education equals literacy for you, yes, white people can teach black children. If literacy is all you're looking for. But if you are looking for the bolstering of self-esteem, the fostering of self-confidence. If you are looking for a black child to develop the resolve to be able to succeed against the odds, the biggest odd being racism, white teachers cannot teach black children how to survive, because a victim of racism cannot ever be properly educated by a perpetrator or beneficiary of racism, because they cannot understand the bottom of the apple from which you're forced to chew. And you can't totally understand the top of the apple from which they're able to see. Only someone who has walked the life of a black boy or girl can prepare a black boy or girl for success. So you can use them for certain subjects, Sister. I'm not saying they can't be in a black school, but I'm saying if your end product is a self-loving, self-respecting, committed to the black community, nation-building, pan-African, unapologetically African student, white people cannot produce that for you.
My God. Well, let's take a call, because I know that, and you just got the lesson on the board. I didn't. So
all right, let's go to the phone lines. We got Brother Carlos. You are live on a Power Hour with Sister Ann and Dr. Umar. How we doing today?
Brother Carlos?
Brother Carlos?
Uh-oh.
Turn my phone line on. How do I do that?
Let's get the engineer in here.
Hit on with a phone on. Hit on with a phone on. Where I see phone? Right here?
Let's see.
Brother Carlos.
Hello.
Here we go. How you doing, Brother Carlos? Good Garvey there. You're live with Sister Ann. Make sure you say good morning to the Queen.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Carlos.
What's on your mind, brother?
Thank you for bringing Dr. Umar back on. I listened to all of your tapes and stuff like that on YouTube and from the Breakfast Club, and I agree so much with what you have said. You had mentioned that Washington, D.C. is number 46. I want to ask you, where is Baltimore? That's my first question.
Maryland, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Maryland isn't much better than Washington. They're right around the general area. I got to double check that list.
Okay.
I only paid attention to where my trainings were, but I can go back to that list and check it out.
Okay. My second question, have you heard or read about the ghost charter schools that have been promoted by this administration, where billions of dollars have been taken away from the public education and given to these ghost charter schools that have been proposed but never actually activated or operated? And third, would you expound any more on your theory of the coon and the Negro and include any more names on that list that you didn't give us before to help us out, because we have to ferret those people out. And I'll take the answer off air. And thank you so much, my brother. You keep it up, and I wish you were in Baltimore where we can make you superintendent. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Brother Carlos. Okay. Betsy DeVos, Donald Trump's current Secretary of Education, was put there to continue to defund, underfund public schools in predominantly black neighborhoods. Now, let me say this. Charter schools are a part of the gentrification movement. Let me say it one more time. Charter schools are a part of the gentrification movement. Let me say it one more time. Charter schools are a part of the gentrification movement. In other words, Sister Ann, if you have a black elected official that's constantly championing charter schools, guess what they're really doing? They're helping white folk take back the black community, disguised as giving black children a better education.
Okay. So you got me on that one.
You follow me? In other words, I'm an elected official. I'm in Philadelphia City Council.
Talk to me like I'm in elementary school.
Exactly.
Okay,
so I'm your city councilman. And I'm running all through the black neighborhood talking about we're going to open up 3 new charter schools right here in North Philadelphia. And all the black parents are like, yes, new charter schools, brand new. What you don't realize is those charter schools are going to be white ran, white controlled, with a 75% white employee base. And then those white folks who work at these 3 charter schools that the Negro politician is opening up are going to move into that neighborhood, buy their houses there, buy up the real estate there. And guess what, Sister Ann? 5-10 years into the charter school, the neighborhood don't even look like it was. It was black, now it's white, and your child can't even afford to go to the charter school no more because they got priced out that neighborhood with the property taxes. Charter schools are the best weapon of gentrification. Why you don't find charter schools in white suburbs? Why you don't find charter schools in white suburbs? Because charter schools are a ethnic cleansing inner city gentrification weapon. That's why. Am I damning black charter schools? No, I'm not. Because I work with black charter schools. They do a good job. Okay? You don't have to throw out the baby with the bathwater. But let us still recognize that this is something that was not meant for black people. It's no different than when you look at hip hop. And you say, does hip-hop benefit the black community? Hell no. Now, there might be some hip-hop artists that do good things with their music, right? But as a movement, does hip-hop benefit black people? Hell no. It does nothing but advertise mass incarceration. That's all it does, right? Same thing with charter schools. We got some good charter schools. We should support them. Ran by black folks, right? But is the charter school movement intended to help black kids? Hell no. And as far as the Negro and the coon, I don't name names, but the difference between a Negro and a coon is they're both sellouts. But the Negro is innocent, Sister Ann, in his or her ignorance. In other words, you might think white people are smarter. You might think they're more attractive. You might think Jesus is white because that's what you've been taught. You can't fault somebody because that's how they're taught. As a child is taught, so will be his thoughts, right? That's the Negro. He's innocent in his ignorance. The coon is not innocent in his ignorance. The coon knows Jesus ain't white, but will say Jesus is white because he'll get something for it. The coon know that black people are the original mothers and fathers of this universe, but will act like we're not to please white folks. The coon knows the truth, but the coon will deliberately act like a Negro in order to get some pennies from Master's table.
So that sounds like the guy that, what was the only black Republican that said Trump did nothing wrong. And incidentally...
That's a coon.
All right, now, give me your feelings on that guy getting the award, Rush Limbaugh.
What award did he get? What award did he get? I know who he is. Martin
Luther
King? No way.
Martin Luther King
no
got
way.
this medal. No, during the speech, I didn't watch the speech, so anybody can help me with it. He received the Medal of Honor during the
Rush Limbaugh?
Rush Limbaugh.
He's the most notorious radio racist in America.
Yeah, he got a medal he got the same award that Obama gave Biden.
I'm not sure what that is.
Honor. I'm not sure.
I'm gonna look it up, but that's insane.
He did.
That man is insane. That should have never happened.
Did you watch that?
I didn't
speech?
see that. Nah.
I didn't see.
I'm gonna look it up now.
Either.
You gave me some homework.
Yeah, it is. Well, let's get another.
Let's go back to the calls. We have John. Good morning, John or Gene. Who am I speaking with? Good morning. Are you there?
Well,
they might have dropped. Let's go to Tony. Good morning, Tony. You're on the Power Hour with Sister Ann and Dr. Umar. Are you there, my brother?
Yeah, I'm here. I think that medal was the Congressional Medal of Freedom or something like that. I don't know.
For what? For being the most notorious racist on radio? How you doing today, brother?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I hear what you're saying. I guess, I have a different outlook on things, but I just want to keep it where you at with the education. Unfortunately, we got to take a lot of blame. We can go back through history, but it's our parenting that's keeping our kids back and our children back. Because we got, unfortunately, I'm just going to keep it real. We got ignorant people having babies, and they can't teach their babies. So therefore, now you got babies struggling when they in first, second, third grade don't know how to say the ABCs, but they know every rap song, and they know every episode of whatever that one rap show on Fox is.
Mm-hmm.
The rap. They know all that, but they don't know their basic ABCs and how to count to 10. So we're the ones negligent, and the reason our communities are jacked up is because we don't own anything in our communities, and our tax base is low. And when we talk about gentrification, to me, I think that word is just used so improperly. And actually, just to be truthful, you use it improperly as well, because all gentrification is to bring a neighborhood up to a middle class.
Oh, no, sir. No, sir, my brother. And I want to thank you for that call, Brother Tone. I want to thank you for that call. And here's how I would respond to Brother Tony's comment. He is correct. We do bear responsibility for what's happening to us. But our responsibility is purely on the side of solving the problem, not creating it. I want to make this very clear, Sister Ann, because our people get confused when we talk about responsibility and accountability, right? Responsibility and accountability. Who's responsible for poor schools in Baltimore and in D.C. and in Richmond? The white power structure is. There is no debating that. We don't control the schools. We don't staff the schools. We don't run the schools. We don't make policy for the schools. There's no way you can be responsible for an institution that you do not control, you do not own, you do not run, and for whose infrastructure you do not create. It is white racism that destroyed the schools. Now, to Tony's point, Sister Ann, here's where we differ. I agree with what he said, but I disagree with him attributing the failure of the school to parents. No, the system destroyed the school. But here's where I agree with him. We are 100% accountable for fixing the school, Sister Ann. Do you follow what I'm saying? So if he says, listen, they messed these schools up. They messed up the schools in Baltimore. They messed up the schools in D.C. They messed up the schools in Richmond, Norfolk. I got you. Now, we as a people are responsible for fixing education. I can agree with you. In other words, stop making black parents responsible for the failing school. Make the black community responsible for changing those schools around.
Wow. Well, how about the irresponsible parenting he talked about? Because there is something to be said about having children early.
I agree with you, but why are we having children early? Because in the 1970s and 80s, they started mass incarcerating black men after they destroyed the economic foundation of the black community by taking all the factories out and eliminating the trade skill programs in the high schools. They made black men unemployed and unemployable. We broke the law, start selling drugs, and they started mass warehousing us in America's prisons. There would be no teenage pregnancy crisis if there was not a black male mass incarceration crisis. There would be no teenage pregnancy crisis if there was not a black male mass incarceration crisis. So if you want to end teenage pregnancy, give these girls their fathers back. That's what you do. But I'm sick and tired of a racist, hypocritical United States government. And I'm sick and tired of racist, hypocritical neoliberal whites. And I'm sick and tired of racist, hypocritical black bourgeoisies who keep on blaming single black mothers for problems that existed before those black mothers were born. You see, if you want to end teenage pregnancy, take the black fathers out of the prison and put them back in the home with a livable wage job. If Barack Obama could bail out Wall Street, if this man can bail out filthy rich white males as his first act of office, why can't we bail out black men from prison and bail them back into the lives and homes of their women and children? The government created these problems. Don't blame black women and don't blame black men. The government did this to us. But yes, we are responsible, as the most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey would say, for solving our own problems ourselves.
Good Lord. But I tell you what, when they do have the children younger, they do seem to have less of the diseases that we have to worry about when you get a little bit older having children. So I'm going to give them that. Yeah.
The issue with the teenage pregnancy, quickly, Sister Ann, is when a child has a child, neither one of them are done receiving the psychological resources they need to become healthy, functioning human beings, right? The 3-year-old doesn't have the psychological resources to go and get the love and affection that they need. But her 17, 16-year-old mom does. So the 17, 16-year-old mom will leave the 3-year-old grandchild with the grandmom while she go and get her needs met from her boyfriend, love, attention, nurture, things she needed from her own father. That 3-year-old can't get that, but what the 3-year-old can get is sexually molested. You see, what the 3-year-old can get is emotionally neglected and abused. You see, that's the issue with teenage pregnancy. It keeps this self-perpetuating cycle of psychological unhealthiness.
My gosh. I mean, just if anybody wants to call in, the number is 410-481-1010.
We got another one. You want to go to him?
Yeah, let's see what's up.
All right.
So we can get him on.
Good Garvey Day, Brother Jason. You're live on a Power Hour with Sister Ann and the Prince of Pan-Africanism. What's going on, my brother?
Good afternoon, my queen, Sister Ann, and Hotep to you, my brother.
Hotep.
Really quick, two things. award that was given to Rush Limbaugh was the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is the highest civilian award that you can give anybody. So it was established by John F. Kennedy. It originally was an award that was created by Harry S. Truman, and it was renamed the Presidential Medal of Freedom. We basically gave the award to a oxycodone, hate-mongering,
absolutely.
Person, and it's just despicable what this president has done.
Absolutely.
In reference to our children, I have a personal issue, and I wanted to share with you. With over 500,000 children at any given time in the foster care system, and in Maryland, over 5,000 children in the foster care system. Me being a product of the foster care system, one of the things that I had to fight with and a challenge growing up and being educated was that most foster children are deemed to be placed into special education. And for the longest, my mother, I was taken away because of my mother was what they call a functional alcoholic, and I became a ward of the court. But for the longest, my mother and myself had to fight a system that basically looked at children in foster care as special needs, and automatically placed them into the special education system. How do we fight that? Because there are many children that are exceptional. I was exceptional, but the system, because they looked at it that I was in a foster care system, that I was a ward of the court, that I wasn't deserving of being in mainstream courses or mainstream system, and kept me in special education for a very long time.
All right.
Until eventually I was able to go to a mainstream school.
Gotcha.
But how can we fight that, especially when in most cases a lot of these parents aren't active, or some of these children are not as vocal as I was?
Got you. Thank you for that call, Jay. And I'm about to answer that question, my brother. When you talk about children in the foster care system, they don't have a protection advocate, Sister Ann. In other words, your mother's not there, your father's not there, your aunt, your uncle, your godmom, your godpop. They're not there to protect you. You are 100% totally property of the state. You are a baby slave. That's what you are. And because these systems are all about making money and exploiting children and justifying why you have those children in the first place. Let me say that again, Sister Ann. Justifying why you have these children in the first place. And one of the best ways to justify why you have so many black children in foster care is by doping them up, misdiagnosing them up. The reason why they're with us is because he got ADHD and conduct disorder and a learning disability and emotional disturbance. And he needs Risperdal, and he needs Vyvanse, and he needs Concerta, and he needs Adderall. So they make our children look worse than what they are because the funding is based on the level of pathology. Let me say that again. The funding is based on the level of pathology. So you make the child look as worse as you possibly can, as worse as they can be, so you can get as much money as possible. There is no mental health system in America. There's only a mental health exploitation system in America. Good morning, Charles. You are live on a Power Hour with Sister Ann and Dr. Umar Johnson.
Yes, greetings to everyone.
Greetings.
Dr. Umar, you know you're in Baltimore, right?
Yes, sir. I'm in Baltimore.
All right. Now, Baltimore is under a consent decree. Are you familiar with that?
I'm familiar with the consent decree. Yes, sir.
All right. Now, leadership is shown by reading. Reading is leadership. Now, we don't have any leadership that has read the Baltimore City consent decree. Have you read the Baltimore City consent decree?
I haven't read the consent decree for Baltimore, but I read plenty of them around the country.
All right, well, I would like for you to read the Baltimore City consent decree, and next week we can talk about it.
Got you. No problem, my brother. Thank you for that call, Brother Charles. One love, brother. Good morning, Queen Sister Shelley. You are live with Sister Ann and the Prince of Pan-Africanism on the Hour of Power.
How are you, sweetheart?
Stop laughing, Sister Shelley. Talk black to me, Queen. Talk black to me.
Black all day, all night. I wanted to touch on a few things that that I heard you say, but I got to remember some of what they were. First thing I heard you speak about was there's no way to determine a child being learning disabled.
Correct. No absolute way. No.
I know there's such thing as the Weissler test, the intelligence test, all the different testing.
Yeah.
If there's no way for a authority to determine a child learning disabled, how do they determine them to be learning disabled?
Excellent question, because that's the heart and soul of what we do as certified school psychologists. So let's say your child, and let me first, because folks are constantly asking for the number, 410-481-1010. That's 410-481-1010. Now, your child gets referred for a psychological evaluation to determine if there is a disability that may require special ed. A standard school psychological battery of tests include intelligence tests, achievement tests, which will be your reading, writing, math, listening, speaking, all of those. So intelligence testing, achievement testing, those are the main two. And then there is some sort of a visual motor assessment to determine if the child has any eye-hand coordination issues. And then there is some sort of a behavioral measure to see if the behavior is beyond normal limits. And then there's some sort of a psychological measure to make sure there's no psychological issues outside of learning that could be affecting learning. And then there's an adaptive behavior measure to see if the child is developing within adequate limits in areas that are necessary for survival. So communication, daily living, self-help, social skills. That's your battery. IQ, achievement, behavior, psychology, adaptive, visual motor. And if there's anything additional, so if the kid is being tested for autism, there will be some sort of an autistic assessment. If they're being tested for emotional disturbance, there will be some sort of emotional disturbance measure. But the biggest special ed disability is the reading disability. And the assessment, the achievement assessment and the intelligence assessment are primary for determining the learning disability. So your daughter gets a 100 IQ score. That's normal range. She gets a 80 on her reading. Now, an 80 is a little low, right? We want her to be between 90 and 110, which is normal. She got an 80. But let me ask you a question. If your daughter got an 80 standard score on the reading test, would you consider her to have a reading disability?
Probably not.
Neither would I, because that's a low B. We want it higher, but clearly not disabled. Well, guess what? Under the United States Special Ed Code, your daughter can be classified as reading disabled with a standard score of an 80 on the psychological assessment because that 80 was 20 points lower than her IQ score. It's what's called a significant difference, and that significant difference is how special ed operated from its inception in 1975 until George W. Bush reauthorized it in 2004, and even though he added a response to intervention component that allows us to look at other things before we slap your child with a learning disability label, schools still have the right to use what is called the ability achievement discrepancy model. And the ability achievement discrepancy model, Sister Shelley, is a model that says if the achievement score is 15 points or more lower, 15 points or greater lower than the ability score, you can conclude that this child is learning disabled. And that's how they swelled up the special ed classes for black children. The learning disability has been a hoax and a con game.
So how do you determine a child is learning disabled before they enter kindergarten or first grade? I mean, autism is normally picked up before 3 or around 4-ish.
I'm going to disagree with that. As an expert in autism, although children can be classified before 3, you had better take your time and come to the conclusion that a child is autistic, because I've had many children who were misdiagnosed as autistic at 3, 4, and 5 because you can't quite be certain that it is what it appears to be. It could be a hearing problem. It could be a trauma problem. It could be a brain damage issue. It could be a selective mutism. It could be hearing loss. There's a lot of problems that can look like autism. So what I always recommend that parents do is take your time. There's no cure for autism, so there's no need to rush the classification. And if you rush the classification and get your child labeled as autistic as 3, and you find out at 12 that they were not, look at all the years they were miseducated because you would not exercise patience. Take your time before coming to these conclusions. And that's why we want everybody to be at the John Wesley AME Zion Church, 1615 14th Street, 1615 14th Street in Washington, D.C. for the Maryland, Virginia, and D.C. Black Parent Know Your School Rights training from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Get your tickets at DrUmarJohnson.com.
Well, I'm in Delaware. I'm not coming to D.C. I'm in Delaware.
I heard that.
I don't want to get stuck on the autism thing.
Let me do this, Sister Shelley. We got some other callers, my love, so we won't be able to continue that conversation right now, but let's pick it up a little later. And feel free to give me a ring, Queen, because you're in Delaware. You know we got the school in Delaware, the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. Maybe you could be of some help there. And anyone who needs to reach me can do so at 8444 Dr. Umar. That's 8444 DrUMAR. Thank you for the call, Queen. Good morning, Brother Andrew. You are live with Sister Ann and the Prince of Pan-Africanism on the Hour of Power.
Peace be with you. Peace be with you.
Peace and love, brother. Peace and love.
Not much is all love. My name is Psychologist on IG, and I experienced these things because I used to have been on special ed for not too long, but I was in like some type of speech education.
Yes.
And the way how schools are designed for, usually you be sent to a certain class, and you be with everyone that's disabled or has like bipolar issues, and you be classified. And not just that though, you go throughout with certain skills that's required for what the teacher gives out, designed to you. And not everybody can actually build that type of requirements. Some people, some children that's in these schools that's like under the oppression of Board of Ed, don't know what the heck going on. They be abused. They have forced to be doing this. Like the true side of the story, what I wanted to say is the fact that it be the parents that actually cause children, cause all this crisis. If you know where I'm coming from, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I follow you. It's what it sounds like you're saying. What it sounds. Yes, sir. What it sounds like you're saying is that the uninformed parent, the uninformed black parent, becomes weaponized against their own child. Let me say it again. The uninformed parent becomes weaponized against their own child. And thanks for that call, Brother Andrew. We're going to keep on going. Next, we're going to go to Brother Elijah. Good morning, Brother Elijah. You're live on the Hour of Power. Talk to me, brother.
Okay, am I on the line?
Yes, you are. You're live.
Yeah, I'm calling from the state of Colorado, and pretty interesting what you're talking about. But one thing I got to say, on the schools and everything else like that, I guess it depends, because they were having some issues with some of our suburban school districts. They weren't getting enough money from tax money and everything else like that. So what they did is they went to a 4-day week, and what they did, a lot of parents were concerned about, is my child going to be educated? But they've also done is that when they were 4-day weekend, now they've had the children go into 8, 9, 10-hour days. And they said it's worked out well. And another thing they've done, at least in the city of Denver, they've expanded some of the STEM school things. And because we have open enrollment statewide, so if your child is one of the wealthier school districts, they can go to any school they want to. And so they've expanded the STEM, and that's worked out well for some of the people. And but they also had something like the Denver School of Performing Arts. And one thing they found is that a lot of the black kids weren't even getting into that school because they were, but they had people who were coming in from China and they were coming in from Germany. They were paying the school district, I think, about $10,000. They had to pay $10,000 to have their child go to the school. And because my cousins daughter went there, and they kept on persuading her, you're not going to be really good at this. And it was really an outstanding school. Okay. And there were so many black kids who were discouraged from attending.
Sir, thank you for your call. Do you have a direct question for Dr. Umar?
Yeah, he was talking about the schools. Where does Colorado fit into that equation as far as, are you aware of that? Or
you know what, Elijah? I'm not sure. I will have to look back at the list for Colorado. Unfortunately, that's not one of the places where I'll be coming for the training because I didn't get a response there from the community to make it happen. But I need to look at Colorado. And then, of course, even if it's a high ranking, you still have to pull out or piece out, rather, how well the black children are doing. Thank you for that call, Elijah. We're going to run.
Thank you.
And now we're going to go to Brother Randy. Good morning. You're on the Hour of Power with Sister Ann and the Prince of Pan-Africanism. Talk to me.
Hey, Dr. Umar. I'm Brother Rand. We did some work back in 2015 together. Just reaching out to when you were in the downtown Baltimore Culture and Arts.
Yes, sir.
The riot.
Oh, yes, sir.
So it's been a while, but just real quick, because I can inbox you to other stuff. Just real quick, my position in Anne Arundel County now is to stop kids from getting charges on their record from the school system. What's happening now is that if the kids are arguing in class or being disruptive, or even if a fight breaks out, instead of just suspending them and all that, they are literally pressing charges on our elementary, middle school, and high school children. And so I have a connection with the Department of the DJS. To instead of them going to court, they come to me and I actually sit down and mediate the entire thing, so they won't get a record.
In the interest of time, did you want to give out your number so people can contact you? I can give you that.
Yes. What I'll do is I'll
shoot me a text, brother. Shoot me a text. 215-989-9858. 215-989-9858. I want to talk to you, brother. Hopefully you come to the training tomorrow. And we're going to run on that note there.
Yep, and thanks for that work, too.
Yes, indeed. Thanks for that work, brother. We need that. But he's absolutely right, Sister Ann. The schools have now surpassed the street police in many cities. The schools have surpassed the street police for being the number one referrals for new juvenile justice cases. Literally, it is a school to prison pipeline. Brothers and sisters, it's going down tomorrow. John Wesley AME Zion Church, 1615 14th Street in D.C., 9 to 9. Get your tickets at DrUmarJohnson.com. You can come and register on site, but you may not get a training packet. Only those who register online will be guaranteed a training packet, and whatever's left over will go to the people who register on site. No cost for children, but we don't recommend you bring them because we want you to be focused on the information. What you thinking, Sister Ann?
My goodness. I'm like, this is so much. We need 2 hours.
We need 2 hours of power.
We are right up against the time. I want to thank everybody that participated with
Absolutely.
this.
Great
as
calls.
usual. Dr.
Great calls.
Umar, thank you for your time. I'm getting used to being over here, not having to do the work and enjoying the lectures. There's so many other things I could ask you.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know you're on the road, but I want you to go publicly on the air. You're going to come back again.
I'm coming back again with the Hour of Power with the queen of the team, Sister Ann. One love, black family. I'm going to see y'all tomorrow. John Wesley, AME Zion Church, DrUmarJohnson.com. Let's make it happen.
Good night.
Good night, y'all. Good afternoon. Man, that time be going quick. How we doing, brother? All right now.
I'm exhausted.
That time be going fast, don't it?
Man.
Oh, man.
Like sitting there. I am so glad he's in the hot seat because I didn't have to worry about manipulating the calls. I didn't have to do it.
You work them well, though. Right?
Yeah.
Most folks, we got to kind of cook for a couple of episodes.
I didn't have to do it. And here's the thing.
Well, they got a new phone in here today.
The phone system in here, I hadn't even did it. I was like, oh, hell. Like, geez, went up. I can do this.
Okay, hit them all off when you're done.
almost
you got my text message. I was telling you to give me a call when you get a chance.
Okay.
So in reference to, remember we was talking about the eye in the sky.
Ah.
I was going to school you.
Yes,
A little
sir.
bit more.
Yes, sir.
So I'm for it as an investigatory tool.
Okay.
And I'm part of an oversight committee. So like a citizens group. Like a citizens group that's kind of like watching everything as far as privacy concerns.
Yeah.
To be able to take the community's concern and like fight on
Yes,
their
sir.
behalf. So like no money involved.
How you doing, brother?
Why don't you
So
send me a text and invite me?
taking any money in
Yes, sir.
reference to it, but we feel that the community should have an input in it.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
He wants to create a MOU as to what they're allowed to do and what not to do.
Okay.
And so, like I told Dr. Ross, I said, I'm going to be a boil on your ass.
Yes, sir.
Right, because my whole thing is about accountability and allowing the citizens
That's
to
right.
have kind of their voice involved in it.
That's right.
I mean, that thing was up there for a while anyway.
Of course.
I mean, you know, they're already, but he did.